Greetings, brothers. Today we're going to be breaking down a Blood Angels list that went first at GT, which is pretty surprising considering the state of the meta, so let's get straight into it. So this was a first out of 28 places with a 5-0 record for Sweet Lew at the Heroes Retreat Mini GT, and this is a GT in America that was ran the first weekend of April, so before the upcoming balance slate. Right. So it's a Blood Angels detachment and it is a battalion. We have an Angels Ascendant and 2 additional relics of the chapter. For HQ, we've got Commander Dante, and then we've got 2 Sanguinary Priests. I think this is the first time I've actually seen 2, but notably neither is the Selfless Healer. We got one running with Soul Warden, Icon of the Angel, and a jump pack, and Rites of War, and that's the Warlord. So I guess that means reroll charges within 6 of him, add Obsec to units within 6 of him, add a 5+ Feel No Pain to units within 6 of him, and he is the Warlord, so bonuses for Sanguinary Guard if they're near him. Then we have a second one without a jump pack who's running with Armor Indomitus. It does mean we'll be able to get 2 units into the Assault Doctrine without any CP and potentially 3 units in turn 1 if we do spend some CP using the Blood Chalice. Now troops, we've got Assault Intercessors and 2 squads of Cursors, and this is a very stable troop choice. We see this in a lot of lists. I think it's a good way to have good flexible troop choices, but also not spend too many points. Elite-wise, we've got 5 Blade Guard Veterans. The Sergeant is upgraded to the Neo Volkite Pistol. We also have a Company Champion who is being upgraded to the Chapter Champion, which is 15 extra points. He's running the Blade of Triumph, so that is that Strength 7 -3 damage sword, and he also has Imperium Sword, so he's rerolling his charges and he's giving +1 attack. Now both these choices, the Blade Guard and the Company Champion, are interesting because the Company Champion can give an aura of reroll charges, and I would have thought that was maybe better, but 1 extra attack, I guess, on that nasty sword is possibly worth it. And again, the Neo Volkite Pistol on the Blade Guard could be better maybe elsewhere as an Infernal Pistol, but I mean, it is what it is. It won a tournament, so that's very good. We have 5 Death Companies, all with jump packs, all with Thunderhammers. So this is our Alpha Striking Death Company squad that can get Chapter Master rerolls in turn 1, so they're basically hitting 75% of the time and be pushing into Assault Doctrine for the Priests. Very good potential Forlorn Fury unit here. We then have 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard, and they're smaller than we normally see, and we talk on this channel how we don't think small squads of Sanguinary Guard are all that useful, but here we've got one with its 5 with Power Fists, so I guess they'd be good against sort of those like Ramshackle, you need to hit them with Strength 8 kind of Orc lists, and then Axes, being that Strength 6 with the +1 to wound, are so much stronger than swords right now, it feels, with so much Toughness 5 and Toughness 6 stuff running around in the meta, so we can totally see why people are leaning heavily on Axes. We then have Lightning Claws with Storm Shields as a 10-man squad. The Sergeant is rocking a Mastercrafted Relic Blade, so he essentially has that 3 damage sword, but he doesn't have to take the -1 to hit from like a Thunderhammer does. It's going to cost a CP to do that though, and obviously the Vanguard Veterans can be combat squadded. Now for heavy support we have something that we haven't seen much, and that's a 5-man Devastator squad with Grav Cannons. Now this is very popular last edition. We have a Cherub, so 1 Devastator can shoot twice, and obviously we've got the Sergeant there who can make 1 Devastator +1 to hit, so potentially what that gives you is 8 Grav Cannon shots, assuming you blow the Cherub, hitting on 2s, and then 12 shots hitting on 3s. So it is 20 shots potentially in the first turn that they fire. It's a 30-inch range, which is pretty good in 9th on the smaller board size. And then we also got the Whirlwind in there so that we can have all the good stuff the Whirlwind brings, which is securing a backfield objective, indirect fire, suppression fire. I mean, the Whirlwind is just a good unit. It's a very staple choice in Blood Angels tournament lists. So I wanted to just say that basically, like, it was 5 wins, and 4 of the 5 are over 90 points, with the last game being an 86. So all the wins were strong, and the final game was actually against the Custodes, which is a tough matchup for Blood Angels right now against Custodes. I played Custodes with their new Codex and with the Trajan Valoris points drops, and I got absolutely wrecked. So even beating Custodes by 1 point is good. This was an 11-point victory, so good job on Sweet Lew. Sweet Lew, if you're watching this and you want to reach out to me and we can talk about your list, more than welcome to do that. I couldn't find any information on Sweet Lew, or I asked in a few groups in Discords, so you can reach out to me if you want. Anyway, let's talk about the strategy that's in this list. So, it's a small contingent of heavy support. You know, the Whirlwind, I've said, is such a good staple. If you're running Blood Angels and you want to be competitive, I think as annoying it is to have to pay 125 points in the Whirlwind, I think in some games it's just too valuable to ignore. And then Grab's Devastators are a choice we really haven't seen, but they do seem reasonably versatile. They get a large number of shots. They're not going to be very good against anything that's toughness 6 and above. So they're not really going to punch out any serious armor. I don't think they're going to be super effective against stuff like Drukhari Raiders. Someone has asked me to do a video breaking down the Grav Devastators. How do they compare against Eradicators, and how do they compare, I suppose, maybe another thing would compare them to would be the Volcons. Now they've gotten up in points. So we'll do a video on that soon. It's on my radar. I'm definitely going to do a video about that. As always, you can make suggestions about videos you want to see. We get 2 Sangre Priests. One is the Warlord with basically all the buffs. Interesting to see that he's not the Selfless Healer. He had Rites of War and Soul Warden. So 5-up Shrug against mortals, adding OBSEC, but no reviving models. And I have said before that I thought the Selfless Healer was overcosted at 135 points. And I kind of dropped playing him when he went up to 135 points, so this is interesting. We could see him in this list. Obviously, you can still spend 1 CP a turn if you do need to resurrect a model. That is still totally a choice. You just can't do it for free. Dante is in the list as well to give out sort of valuable rerolls, potentially sacrifice himself pretty cheaply to keep other units alive. We've got Cursors, which can deploy aggressively, which are very good for objective scoring, and obviously the Phobos part of it means that they can guerrilla tactics and score objectives or secondaries even better. And we've got 2 squads of Sangre Guard. They are small squads, which we don't often like, but I guess played right, potentially guarding the healer, potentially coming in to the right targets. They can do a bit of damage. I just don't know if 4 Sangre Guard with axes are very strong in the current meta, especially with -1 and everything running in vulnerable saves. Be interested to know how he feels like he gets the most value out of them. And it is interesting as well to see just 2, total it's 9 man of Sangre Guard, right? And I guess the one thing to say about that is Sangre Guard are super expensive for what you get right now, especially, like I said, against -1 damage enemies, which are very prominent in the meta. I think it's interesting to see a focus on the Death Company and the Vanguard Veterans, and the Vanguard Veterans is something I've leaned into myself over the last month or two. We've got the small squad of Forlorn Fury Death Company with hammers. I guess that can inflict a ton of turn 1 damage. Those hammers, if they get put into the Assault Doctrine in turn 1, it's essentially like 5 attacks per model, so you're talking 20 Thunderhammer hits, and you can basically make it so you're hitting 75% of the time with Chapter Master rerolls. If you're into an enemy that can turn off your rerolls, you may be hurting a bit, but if you're not, then the Thunderhammer Death Company in turn 1 can do a huge amount of damage, assuming you get to go first and you can get them across the board. It's very easy to be in the deployment zone in the enemy's face in turn 1 when you can move 24 inches. We then have the large Vanguard Veteran Squad with the Combat Squad potential, and I like a large Vanguard Veteran Squad anyway, but being able to combat squad them just gives them an extra little bit of versatility, especially if you're ever going to need to do stuff like a lot of the new primary pluses and secondaries require units to do actions, so combat squad them if you don't need them as a massive death ball. If you need them in a massive death ball, just do it that way. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of this list? It's got a good amount of Feel No Pain from the 2 priests, so pretty much I guess all your Blade Guard veterans, all your characters potentially, and a lot of your jump units can probably be in some of these Feel No Pain bubbles. We also have the Whirlwind to shut down Overwatch and make enemies fight last. That can make it very difficult for the enemies to charge you, which obviously helps a Blood Angel's army considering most of our damage comes in close combat. We're very mobile. If we potentially combat squad the Vanguard Veteran unit to make us 5 jump pack units, we're obviously able to add OBSEC to any units near the priest, meaning we can spend a lot of time flipping and scoring our primaries. And then there's a good number of units in this list as well to do actions, and the Phobos units being able to bounce around with guerrilla tactics really can help that no end. I could see this list scoring well on something like Relentless Assault and Teleport Homers if the map allows for it. What are the weaknesses? I think we've got 4 characters, so we're really open to assassination from the enemy. I think that none of these characters are particularly survivable, so it depends on if the enemy can isolate and kill the characters, then we're going to give up some points in assassination. We have no Psyker, so we have no Denies, which in some lists can be difficult. If people are taking Psychic Interrogation as a secondary to get points, then no Psyker can technically be an issue there. We also have a real lack of 3 damage or above weaponry, and I think that you need over 15 3 or more damage weapons in your list. I played against Death Guard last night, and I actually lost, And I think I had 14 3 damage weapons on my list. So I was only lost by like 2 points, but if you're coming into one of those -1 damage armies, I guess we're not seeing very much Death Guard at tournaments. But if you're not going to run a good number of 3 damage weapons, then you're potentially going to have a lot of problems against -1 damage enemies. They're maybe not in all the metas right now. I know in America, people aren't rating these highly, but where I play, -1 damage is an absolute bloody nightmare. So lack of 3 damage weapons, and I really think it needs to be about 15. If you have less than that, you can be struggling. Now, Two Wound Marines, I guess, as the final weaknesses, really aren't meta right now. Two Wound Marines die like they're wearing paper armor. They have no invulnerable save. There's so many 2 damage weapons in the meta. I think that Two Wound Marines are in a pretty poor state right now. I know Chaos players have been waiting like 2 years to get their second wound. Trust me, guys, it's not all it's cracked up to be. So I like to score every list out of 50 just to see how it stands up, and we're talking about 2 Phobos troop choices, Rites of War, and another OBSEC unit to push forward. So OBSEC/objective holding I think is about 9.5 out of 10. Anti-infantry hordes, well, we've got some solid firepower from the Grav Cannons, we've got the Whirlwind with a good range, we've got like 18 Sanguinary Guard bolters, or 9 times 2 shots each, so we've got a bit of anti-horde there. I'd say 8 out of 10. There's only 7 3 damage or more weapons, and I really think that will struggle with -1 damage enemies, and also this list does require a lot on rerolls, so I guess if you do not have that, then potentially maybe you're going to struggle against some bigger monsters or vehicles. We're talking maybe like 8.5 out of 10. Overall, the mobility is pretty great though. All units bar the Blade Guard veterans, Assault Intercessors, and Devastators are pretty mobile. I mean, the Devastators don't need to be super mobile with their 30-inch range, so I don't think mobility is a problem. 8.5 out of 10. And then specializations, we're missing a couple of things, and the things I think we're missing are we've got no denies, we've got no real anti-armor firepower, that's definitely how you spell firepower, by the way. And we have a lack of 3 damage weapons, and these are all things that I do really like. I just played against Drukhari a couple of weeks back in a really close game, and like if you can't open up the Raiders, which I couldn't do effectively in that game, it was so difficult to score points against Drukhari. Also, I played against Death Guard. Lack of 3 damage weapons, that's super difficult as well. And then denies, sometimes I think you don't need denies. I guess if you're going to run Soul Warden to give you that aura of 5-up shrugs, then maybe you don't need denies, because I think a 5-up shrug is about as even as a deny is in terms of reliability. But this gives us a score of like 42.5 out of 50, so a pretty solid score, and the chart looks something like this. So leave me a comment down below on what you thought of this list. What secondaries would you like to see it? If anyone knows Sweet Lew, tell them to get in touch with me and maybe we can dive into it a bit deeper. I, of course, have been running a lot of units into Strategic Reserve, stuff like Assault Intercessors, and also Terminators, both Assault and ones with Chain Fists, the good old regular Terminators with Teleport Homers. I did a video a few weeks back wondering if those Terminators were competitive. If you'd like to check that out now, I'd appreciate it. If you got any value out of today's video, I'd also love it if you hit the like button so it could spread to some other people. And then just remember, this Saturday night, we're finally going to have the painting competition giveaway, where we are giving away the Horus Heresy Chapter Master Ralderon models. I got 2 of them. Come check out our stream Saturday night at 9:30 UK time. We'll be live for about an hour, and in that stream, we'll pick the winners that are going to get sent these boxes. Thank you again for watching. I really do appreciate you guys. If you'd like to see more Blood Angels content every week, consider subscribing, and if not, then no worries. I will catch you in the next video, brothers. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.